Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm Simona Nicole, host of the show, mindset coach, and motivational speaker. I've made it my mission to help you get unstuck, shift your mindset, and understand your worth to help you live your most purposeful life. Each week, I will bring you an idea, guest, or a positive thought that will leave you inspired and empowered to win your life. We decide the stories we tell ourselves and where we invest our energy. I'm so grateful you popped in. Now let's dive in. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm so excited to bring you this episode today. It's a little bit different than I've done in the last little bit. This interview was actually pulled from an interview that I did with a friend of mine. Her name is KAITY O'Keefe. And KAITY is a social media manager. She helps wellpreneurs and coaches magnetize their dream audience with authentic personal branding. The conversation that KAITY and I had was her interviewing me for her Facebook group. And I love the conversation so much, so I wanted to share it with you all here as well. There's so many nuggets of information in this episode that you can take and apply into your life right away. I talk a lot about my journey, my business, and how I changed my life completely, beliefs that keep us stuck in our current reality, how we create rules in our lives and how they hinder us instead of launching us forward. We also talk a lot about human connection and how it builds your business, how it builds your life, and also the lessons that I've learned throughout podcasting and bringing on all of my different guests on here. And the last thing that we spoke about so many different things, but the last thing that I want to highlight is how to shift your energy when you're feeling down. And I think that this part is so important because it plays such a key role in our overall wellness and overall mindset. So I am so excited to just share all of this conversation with you, all of these topics. It's going to be a great listen, I think, for you, and you'll be able to, really dive in and understand the intricacies of mindset and where we come from and where we go to. So I'm very grateful that you're here and listening today. If you love this episode as much as I do, please share the episode, take a screenshot, put it on your stories, tag me, tag KAITY so we know exactly who's listening. I'm so grateful every time I get to see who is listening to the episode. So be sure to share it with someone who you think needs this message. On the flip side of this, I want to talk a little bit about, before we dive into the episode, I want to talk a little bit about my new group mastermind. It is a very, very, very intimate group of people, maximum 5 people in this mastermind. We are starting mid-October, and it's called Happiness Happens Today Mastermind. The purpose of this mastermind is really to dive deep into your mindset, shift your ways of thinking, change those, old patterns and beliefs, integrate a gratitude practice, and really address the beliefs and the fears that hold you back every single day. Really identifying areas of your life that you want to change, learn the tools for empowerment and for mindset shifting, and really being surrounded by and supported by people who are similar to you, who are experiencing the same things as you. So, in this mastermind, you're going to wake up every single day with energy, excited for your day ahead, become really at peace with your past, and become at peace internally, living happier, living more fulfilled in your life, in your business, in your job. Be super empowered and aligned and confident in your decisions on a daily basis, confident in your passion, confident in your purpose, and really live it out every single day unapologetically. And also learning how to do only the things that bring you joy. Having honest conversations with yourself with no ego, with no blame, with no judgment, and creating this deep connection to yourself and to your intuition. That's a really important piece, turning inwards to really build the life and the business, the job, the career, the family, the relationships that you want. So this coaching mastermind is a beautiful container that's going to help you level up in every single area of your life, in relationships, in your career, in your job, in what you want to be doing, your friendships, the connections that you already have. And so by doing this work and leveling up your life, ultimately I love to describe it as whole life coaching. coaching in every single area of your life. And I'm so excited about the transformation that this group is going to bring, because it's going to allow you to take responsibility for your feelings, responsibility for your mind and your reactions in the most empowering way. So in this group mastermind, it's going to be a lot of helping you to heal and bringing back your power and remembering who you are and why you came here. So I'm super excited to officially open up the doors to the Happiness Happens Today Mastermind. Again, there is no sales page, so if you want in, you have to send me a DM on Instagram or send me an email. My Instagram is linked in the show notes over here, but it's at simona.nicole. And my email is hello@simonanicole.com. And I'm going to have a sales page up soon, but I really wanted to get this out here and start talking about it with you, to put it on your radar. And so in addition to all of the incredible transformation that you are going to receive in this beautiful container, it is a 6-month-long group coaching program. Very intimate group, 5 people max. You get 2 group coaching calls every single month. You get 1 one-on-one call every single month. And you get unlimited Voxer support 24/7 as soon as you sign up. So even if that's before the actual mastermind begins in October. So let's say you join now as you're listening to this. You get that instant Voxer support. So we start transforming your life now. We're not waiting anymore. It's not time to play small anymore. It's time to really take hold of your power and your life and step into that you that is so incredibly deserving of all of the beauty that you can imagine and manifest for yourself. So if you're as excited about this as I am, send me a message. I'm so excited to chat with you. And on that note, let's dive into today's episode. We did have some technology issues throughout, so just bear with us a little bit here, but it's a beautiful conversation, so I hope you enjoy.
Do you think, let's just go ahead and restart so I think everyone can go ahead and get everything you just said and
Perfect.
not have to worry about going back and like listening. So yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourself, Simona. Like I was saying at the beginning of this, you are amazing at all things mindset, but you also have an amazing, strong background in marketing and PR. You're also a podcaster. You're just so good at so many different things, and you've had such a unique journey to get to where you are today. So go ahead and share like about all of those things, like how basically your journey. Share your journey with us.
For sure. So again, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm really grateful to be here, especially on your birthday as you launch this. So this is super, super fun and I'm very excited. If I think about my journey, I mean, there are so many different parts to the story and so many ways that I got where I am today. But essentially, the long short, and we can dive into it more however you want to, but the long short of the whole story is that I like woke up one day and was like super unhappy. And I was like, okay. And it wasn't just like unhappy. It was more of like, I hated every part of my life and everything that I was and everything, like, and how I was, who I was, what I stood for, everything. So I did a lot of the internal work. And at the time, it was so long ago, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't really know what that meant to do like the work. And so I just started following, like at the time, what I didn't know are, like now I know they're intuitive nudges. And so those intuitive nudges brought me to podcasting. I started my podcast at the beginning of 2019 in January, and it's called the Happiness Happens Podcast. And I, every single week, interview incredible guests. I bring them on the show, and we talk a lot about their journeys, their struggles, what they've, accomplished, how they've got there, but also the really low points of their journey too. And the point is really to illustrate and to show that not everybody's journey is perfect. And oftentimes, the people who really quote unquote make it are those who have that belief in themselves. And so the goal of the podcast is to dive into their story and understand their struggles. From there, I started my coaching business and have since been helping people. It's shifted quite a bit, but I've been helping people with their mindset, but also helping them learn how to follow their intuitive nudges, really tap into their spiritual side, and come into their own. And I like to describe it as like coming home to themselves. And I do this through mindset coaching specifically, but it's also kind of like a holistic life coaching, if you will. So ultimately, the goal is to help them have businesses that are thriving and really feel confident in themselves. But on the other whole side of that is having this beautiful life that they've really envisioned for themselves. And like, what does that actually mean? So that's a little bit about me, what I do, and how I got here.
That is awesome. I love how you took the struggle that you had, right? Which was you were not feeling fulfilled, and you basically ran with this idea you had, the podcasting, and that has since allowed you to interview tons of people. Like, I've listened to your podcast. You're a really good interviewer, first of all, and
Thank
it's
you.
inspiring. But also speaking just from, I'm sure, your perspective, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you're saying is that this has, like, this experience of interviewing people has really had a positive effect on you, because it's almost like more for you. I mean, of course, it's still for the audience, but it's like it is for you too, because you're learning from them. You're interviewing people who are maybe not necessarily in the exact position you want to be, but they are fulfilled and
Yes.
happy and making progress. And so I know I have known you for just over 8 months now, I believe, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy how time has flown, but
Yeah.
and I've seen,
It's insane.
yeah, I've seen your personal growth from the time we first met. And even when I first met you, I was already like, wow, this chick has done a lot. Like, she has this podcast. I didn't know how far you were along or how far along you were in your coaching journey at that point, but I know that you've grown a lot in your coaching journey since then too.
Yes.
And it's just crazy. But anyways, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is this mission you're on, even though it's helping others, it's also been started to help yourself, it seems. And
Oh, 100%.
yeah.
100%. And I totally so happy to like elaborate a little bit on that too, because what I love, and I think this is the thing, especially when it comes to, I mean, like you and I have discussed this before. We were saying it a little bit at the beginning with all those technical issues. My background is in PR, it's in marketing, it's in communications. So I have a lot of that background already that I bring into my business every single day. But I think like the biggest key thing is that what I did differently with my podcast than I've ever done differently with anything else was really follow like my intuition with my podcast and how I wanted my podcast to be. And so I think a lot of the times, like, people think it has to always be a specific way, look a specific way, talk to a specific audience. But I think that, I think that more often than not, the episodes that resonate the most with people are the ones that you're the most excited to talk about. Because I think that passion comes through, like, through the microphone. It's very, very apparent when someone is passionate about something. And so when I do all of these podcast interviews, I think my favorite part is that I get to meet incredible people and I get to hear about their stories, but then I learn so much from every single conversation. How other people define happiness, how other people overcome struggle. And I think after interviewing, like, I've interviewed so many people, KAITY, I think I've interviewed maybe over 50, no, definitely more. I think like maybe 50 or 60 people now at this point. And the biggest thing that they all have in common is that lack of, like, I don't want to say lack, okay, I'm using lack, but I don't mean it in a negative way. Like, this self-confidence and self-worth that does not exist, that they somehow find in this way that they least expect it. And they believe in themselves long enough just to hold on to their dream a little bit more, a little bit longer, and really take that and build this beautiful life for themselves. And I think that, everyone's story is so different. Everyone's experiences are so different. Your upbringing is different. Your background is different. What you learn, what you know, where you've been, it's different for everybody. But what's so key is, like, at the core of it is you're not alone in that struggle that you're facing. You're not alone in that feeling of not feeling worthy. You're not alone in any of those feelings. And what's been the most therapeutic, if you will, for me by interviewing all these people is that everything that I've experienced has been validated along the way. That, oh my God, I'm not losing my mind because I can't figure out what I want this specific thing to look like. You know what I mean? Anyways, I kind of went off on like a little tangent there, but and we can dive more into any area of that you want to. But I think that it's like this core belief that, it's hard, or it's supposed to be hard, or it's supposed to be confusing, and um, it's supposed to be hard. And then it just, it shifts eventually. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
so good. Thank you for sharing all that. I kind
You're
of picked up two
welcome.
things I want to ask you about through that little tidbit you shared there. So, first of all, the belief that it has to be hard, that things have to be complicated, that is totally one that I have experienced, and especially when it comes to marketing, because we want these complicated systems. I think especially as creative people, we want to come up with new systems and new things.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks because it's like it's so counterintuitive, even though it might be fun, it just starts to really kind of piss you off in the end because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just grinding my wheels and trying a bunch of different things rather than sticking with
Mm-hmm.
the one or two or maybe three at the very most things that you know for a fact work. And
Yep.
yeah, so I would love for you to speak on that. And then also additionally, or actually I'll just save this question for after, but just dive into, I would love to know like what you think about why people have to or feel the need to choose complication over simplicity.
I love this question so much. Okay, I'm going to start off by saying that I'm a very transparent person. And to sit here and tell you that I've never struggled is not something that I would ever do. I think that the biggest breakthroughs come in the moments of the hardest struggle. And I also think that when you give yourself that opportunity to, hang on just a little longer, you end up getting to this other side, and it's incredible. When it comes to marketing specifically, I think that a lot of marketers have put so many rules around what marketing needs to look like. And working in all the industries that I've worked in and my business, I can 100% tell you that maybe the core strategy is the same, but everyone can do it in their own different way. And I think that because we want our businesses to be so different, because we want what we do to be, what is resonating with other people, because we want it to be memorable, we put all of these extra rules and all these extra stories around what it is we have to do in our business. So we say, I need to have this launch plan. I have to launch for 5 days. Then I have to go into this. I have to have this freebie. I need to launch for 2 months out. Then when I get in there, I need to have this, 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 this. And I think there's a difference between like client journey and client experience versus like marketing of that. But what I found for me personally is when I put too many rules around what my marketing looks like, that's when I fail the most, because I'm putting somebody else's rules on my business. And unfortunately, that never works, because when we put rules on our business that, we really don't actually believe in, we don't want to show up. You know what I mean? And then we feel worse because we're like, oh my God, I promised that I would go live on this day and I didn't. You know what I mean? And I think that if I have like one biggest takeaway of that is that I stopped doing that. I actually like cold turkey, like stopped doing that. I stopped planning everything to a T, and I stopped trying to figure everything out. And then that's when like the biggest clarity comes through. So like, do I think that you need some kind of like system and strategy? I do. I think you need to have like some kind of idea of what type of marketing you want to do. Where do you want to be marketing your stuff? But do I think that it needs to be planned down to the T? And if you miss your live on a Tuesday, your launch is going to fail? No, I don't.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true because I think when we do plan something like a launch, it's like it gets so detailed that we're like, okay, I got to do all these things, and it can become very overwhelming, especially for solopreneurs like us. Even though I
Oh.
know you have a VA or maybe a couple, I'm not sure,
No, I have one. I have one.
one right now, but
She's amazing.
I love that. But technically, we're still like a team of one with a little bit of additional help, right? So it's like we're
Yeah.
doing all this marketing for our brand on our own, and maybe we have a coach or someone to hold us accountable, but then it's like, yeah, I think what is the most, what causes the most resistance for me at least, and for people I work with, is when something doesn't feel aligned with you, but yet it's part of your strategy. And I think
Mm-hmm.
when it's like, we feel like, oh, I have to do a live video, kind of like you were saying, because everyone else is doing it. Or I have to show up on stories every day and do a mini training. And I used to love, I'll just speak from experience. I used to love, personally, I used to love doing mini trainings on stories every day. But at this point now, it's kind of, I don't know, I'm feeling a little bit more called towards other marketing tactics and marketing strategies. And so I've kind of held off a little bit. And at first I didn't feel like I kind of felt like, oh my God, I'm so off my game. Why can't I show up? And I was really getting into this rut, like talking down to myself, like why can't I show up more? And then all of a sudden it just clicked to me, is like, okay, there's other ways that I can show up and still be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most
Mm-hmm.
importantly, tell me if you agree here, but I think most importantly, like if you're not passionate about the way in which you're showing up on your are you good?
Keep
Oh,
going,
okay,
keep going. I'm like, oh my God, yes.
Good. Okay. I thought you were like talking to your husband.
No, I was like, oh my God, I know where you're going with this, and I agree. But keep going,
Okay.
finish your thought, and then we'll talk about it. Sorry.
I love it. Oh my God.
With all the technology issues, I shouldn't have done that.
I know. I'm just like, oh my gosh, another issue. I'm like, wouldn't shock me today. But anyways, so where I was going with this is, yeah, like if your energy is not right in any way that you're showing up, then it's gonna come through, and it's gonna maybe not even necessarily repel people, but it's not going to do anything in your favor. Like it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
attract your audience versus like
Mm-hmm.
right now we're talking, and I don't even know if we have an audience live watching us right now, but I already know, like, I love doing these. I think I'm definitely going to do more of these interviews. And so
Oh my God,
this
yeah.
is a tactic that I've discovered I like. So
Exactly.
yeah, tell me your thoughts
And
on
like,
that.
oh my God, totally. So my first thought on that is like, you have to like also think, okay, the first time you do something, you're not going to have 500,000 people watching. You know what I mean? Unless you already have a following. When I started my podcast, my first episode that I ever put out, I think I got like 10 downloads, and I was beside myself. Like I was like, oh my God, 10 people listen to my podcast, and like my whole entire day is made. And it was amazing. And I think that, you know, with all of the showing up online and all of the rules in business, I really just think, like, honestly, I don't remember the last time I did a mini training on my Instagram. You know what I mean? And I still have people who want to work with me. You know what I mean? And so it's like when you're honoring that space, when you're honoring what you want, there's no second guessing what you want to do, because you're so concrete in what you feel inside, and you're so aligned to how it is you want to be showing up for your audience, that feeling really translates through the camera. And some part of me thinks that not everyone who watches this is going to agree, but we're all allowed our own opinions. I never judge other people's opinions. So I hope you hear this and you take what you will and you leave the rest. I think a lot of the really traditional ways of doing like Instagram marketing, and let me know what you think about this, Katie, because, you know, this is your bread and butter, but I really feel like a lot of the rules and like 5K launch, make 10K in 3 weeks, like that stuff, I feel like it's starting to die. I feel like it's starting to shift. I feel like people are tired of that conversation, because what I've always said to myself about this is like, okay, your program is going to teach me how to make 5K in 1 month, which is great. But also we always forget that whoever is running that program, how many years did it take them to make that first 5K month? You know what I mean? And so how many years have you been in business for to also be doing that? And I'm not sitting here and saying that it can't be done. It absolutely can. But I think in some sense it like almost puts this like false realization of, or like false expectation of what you're getting in your business. And then when you don't hit that 5K, you're like, oh my God, I suck. My business is no good. Like nobody wants my product. But like, you're not honoring that $1,000 that you made that month, or that $500 that you made that month. And so, you know this as much as I do, like money loves purpose, and money loves to be appreciated. So if you're not going to appreciate the $500, the $1, the $10, when are you going to appreciate the 10K? You know what I mean? Like when?
Yeah, thank you for speaking on that. That is so funny, because
you're
I
welcome.
literally had a conversation with someone today. I was like kind of asking about my own marketing. I'm like, I see all these other coaches and online marketers and just people teaching how to make money online, basically talking about, oh, I had a 10K launch. I can teach you how to do the same thing. And it's like, I feel like I should be doing that in my marketing, and it seems to work for them, but I don't know. It just feels like a little weird to me. And I do think, in a
Yeah.
sense, it's dying, or at least it's evolving to the next point.
It's evolving.
Yeah, I think it's definitely evolving into like a next level where it's not necessarily about, oh, I made this much for this launch, but more like I made this much compared to my previous launch. I'm up leveling, I'm growing.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah,
It's such a really interesting conversation because, like, I'll be honest, like, me personally, I don't really care how much money other people make. You know what I mean? When I see those types of posts, it makes me so happy for those people that they've done that. I want to quickly pause this interview and tell you about the Handel Group coaches that I've had the honor and privilege of bringing onto the Happiness Happens podcast. With every conversation and interview, I've learned something so impactful and so life-changing. Inner You Life is the online coaching course from Handel Group that gives you the tools to get yourself unstuck, wildly happy, and thriving where it matters most to you. Your relationship to yourself, career, love, body, money, time, and more. From wherever, whenever. Recommended by Hugh Jackman, Dr. Mark Hyman, Forrest Whitaker, Elena Brower, and hundreds more. Taught in MIT, Stanford School of Business, and 50 plus institutes of learning across the world. Visit inneryou.coach and use the code Happiness Happens at checkout for $75 off. Now, back to the episode. But I've always felt so uncomfortable sharing that. Not even from like I don't even think it's like from an insecurity type of way. It's more so just like, it doesn't make me a better person if I've made 10K. You know what I mean? It doesn't make my business better than somebody else's. It doesn't make my message more powerful. And I think that one of the things that this brings up for me too is, you know, when you're talking about how everybody else like in your niches is talking about this and like, oh, here's how to get to 10K and so on and so on. I think, what I love the most about you and what I love the most about your marketing and your business is that you're not promising people that 10K month, but what you are promising them is a connection, a real connection with their audience, which I think is so much more valuable. And this is something that like I value so much in my own business. I would rather have genuine conversations in my DMs than the opposite. You know what I mean? And I think that the best way to do that is by following what it is how it is you want to be doing your marketing. You know what I mean? How it is you want to be showing up in your business. Because I think at the end of the day, like, you can do all of these things, and not you specifically, anyone who's watching, you can do all of these different things, and you can use every single tactic in the book. You can use someone else's launch plan and launch strategy, but like realistically, your product is going to sell because it's you, and your product is going to sell because nobody else can do it the way that you do it. And that's just the way that it is, in my opinion.
no, I love that so much. Yeah, I think it's like definitely your personal energy is a big, might not be entirely what sells, but it's a huge factor
It's
in what
huge.
sells. Uh, Even like I'll just go off on a tangent for a second here, but like
Love it.
basically when I first started as a freelance social media manager, I was actually wanting to start with product-based businesses. And what I was noticing that was kind of a trend in the industry. Obviously, we know that influencers on Instagram and other platforms have been around for years. It's not something new that just appeared in the last year or two. But
Yeah.
I noticed this trend that more and more and more product-based businesses that were using influencers, and not just influencers, but also like user-generated content. Like, I'm sure you've done
Yeah.
something like this before, like taking a picture with, I don't know, like let's say your vitamins or something. You're like, I love these vitamins, take them. And you're not an influencer necessarily, but you're a person using the product, and you're a real person giving real feedback saying, I love this thing, you should
Yep.
use it. So basically what I was noticing is the brands that were actually doing that and featuring their real customers, featuring influencers, just featuring people in general, were the ones that were succeeding. And I was like, okay, I see a trend here. And then I started noticing the trend in the service industry too, because with a lot
Mm.
of online businesses, I mean, I think for us, it's normal. We see a lot of people showing their face, showing up on video, or maybe not even on video, but writing their copy from a personal,
Yeah.
like their
Perspective.
perspective. Yeah, not a third person
Yeah.
perspective. And they're sharing their energy with you. But I was still noticing a lot of, either in person or online service providers writing from a third person perspective, never showing up on video, never showing themselves basically. And yet the
Hmm.
ones that are showing themselves and showing up as themselves authentically in their marketing are the ones connecting with their audience more, building more trust and building more of that likability factor with them and ultimately selling them more. And totally from a
Exactly.
place of connection, not the what would we say, like the old paradigm of sales where it feels kind of icky, kind of some people might say slimy, like it feels a little
Slimy,
forced.
sketchy,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, that's my tangent there, but I think that's kind of what I noticed. And exactly going back to what you were saying, like our energy is such a huge not facet, what's the word, basically just such a huge component of selling as a service
Mm.
provider or as a coach.
It is. It so is. I love so much that you said that. I think it's such a really good point to, you know, think about because people really like, that social proof piece. People want to feel like they're a part of something that's going to work. You know what I mean? Especially when you're a service based entrepreneur, which is what I am. People want to feel like they're going to get the value from you that they're expecting. And so I think the best way to show that is to show how you create those transformations, but also to show all of the things that make you incredible because people gravitate towards energy. You know what I mean? And I think of it through a lot through like more of like a spiritual lens because, you know, I just think that like we were saying before, like with energy, if people, you can feel if someone doesn't really want to be there. You know what I mean? I follow lots of entrepreneurs that are, really successful. And I think about it, I'm like, but are you really happy? You know what I mean? Are you honoring your time and space? Or are you kind of stuck in something now that you don't really know how to shift? And I think that I was saying this yesterday on a group coaching call that I was on with my coach. Um, oh my God, I just lost my thought. No, it was so good.
Remember it now.
Mm.
No, my NLP coach, what she always says, but if you could remember what it was, what would it be?
I
Good
like
question,
that a
right?
lot. Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, I think just going off of that, if I could remember it now, I think it would really be like we create all of these things in our lives, and I think what I was gonna say is I would much rather have a smaller following and not be like an online celebrity and have real relationships and real transformations with people, um, than have a big following and, little to no impact. You know what I mean? Because for me, everything is more what I love more and the most about what I get to do every day is that human connection. So, and that community. So if that's not there and that's missing, then I'm doing something wrong. You know what I mean? For
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think this is me personally, but I'm sure you agree just because I feel like we agree a lot on these
We're like the
things.
same person.
We are definitely. I should totally ask you, like, we'll get into that at the end, but like all
Oh,
your personality types, like human design, we'll talk about that for sure. But
okay.
anyways, yeah, I think we totally agree on that. Like a big part of why we do what we do is to have a community because like I'm not gonna lie, before I started my business, I had friends, but I definitely have so many more like soul connections, even with people I've
Yeah,
never met face to face in person, but like we've talked for hours over Zoom calls or even just in the DMs, and maybe they're not necessarily ideal clients, but that's okay. Like they're real people who I give a shit about and they give a shit about me in return. And
exactly.
maybe it never turns into a business transaction, but just the fact that you're building those connections, I think people have good things to say about you. And then likewise, you can say good things about them. It's just never a bad
Exactly.
idea to have like a genuine
No.
soul-based network or community.
Yeah. Plus, like, you never really know how things are going to grow and evolve, right? Like, maybe your community that you're surrounded with right now doesn't need your services, but maybe in 5 years they do. You know what I mean? And so, like, you never know how people will end up working together. Like, I have I have friends that I've made in, like more in like the wellness industry. I think of my one friend, one friend, Nicole. So it's so random. We met in I don't remember how we met. We met at like an event, and we had followed each other online for a little bit, and we talked in the DMs here and there. Then we actually met in person because we're both like from the same area. So we met in person, and then she held a retreat, and she had me on her panel at her retreat. And then, we kept in touch, and then she started doing Reiki. So now I do Reiki with her, and she has a retreat coming up in October. I'm going to her retreat, and she needed to redo her website, and she asked me to proof it. Like just all these like random little things, but they're not like coincidences that are meant to happen. You know what I mean? And they're relationships that are meant to be built. And she's like one of the first people that I can go to with anything, and I know that she'll understand.
Yeah.
Having those people, and like we've literally met in person like maybe twice, 3 times.
I love that so much. Yeah, I've had so many of those connections come out through building my online community too. And it's just awesome because it's like the internet connects us to people that we most likely would have never had a chance to meet prior to the internet
Mm-hmm.
world. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm so grateful to be alive during this era. It's cheesy. That sounds like so cheesy
It's
to me for some reason, but
true.
it's true.
No, I love that.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for sharing
I
all your
love that.
perspective on the
Oh, you're
marketing
so
stuff
welcome.
and building a community.
So welcome.
I think we totally agree on everything. Like,
I know, we really, really do. There's a lot of things that you and I agree on.
yeah, I love it.
And I think that's what happens when you're aligned with people.
Yeah, exactly. When you find your soul tribe, your soul community, whatever word you want to use for it.
Exactly.
So going back to the question I had earlier, I wanted to ask you this one
Oh,
because
yeah.
you were saying that you, excuse me, when you interview people, it's just interesting seeing how much of their journey and their struggles personally line up with you, or maybe even with people you know. And that's just an interesting point I wanted to bring up because I think from a kind of like a personal journey perspective, a lot of us think that we're alone in our struggles and we don't have the same struggles that other people do. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the time we do, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what do you do with it? What are you going to do at the end of the day with the cards you were dealt? And people obviously deal with them in different ways. And sometimes they produce ideal results. Other times they produce not so ideal results. But I think
Mm-hmm.
obviously we can learn from the not so ideal results. But I would just love to hear, like, if you can recall anybody that you've interviewed who has had a struggle that you're like, wow, I totally relate to that, or I can even relate, someone I know to that, and look at what they've created out of it. I don't know if that makes sense as a question,
Completely.
but
No, it makes perfect sense. It's such a good question. I think like the first thing that I would say is, what you just said right there is the full purpose of my podcast. When I first started it, before I started it, I felt so alone. And what I wanted people to know was that they're never alone. And so that's literally why I started my podcast. And I would say all the time, like the purpose of starting the podcast was to help people feel less alone. Um, and so, at least people knew that they had a friend over the microphone if they needed something, you know what I mean, who can understand what they've gone through. I think that, another thing is that I have a lot of like different lived experience that a lot of people might not necessarily have. And so by this, like having this allows me to extend that understanding to other people in a way that they may not have expected. You know what I mean? And allows me to like empathize with their struggles even more. And so when I bring people on the podcast, my sole purpose and goal is to ask the questions that people are scared to ask. And I think that is what makes a conversation good. Because to be honest, most people wouldn't be on the podcast if they didn't want to answer questions that would help other people. I don't think.
hmm
But I've never run into any issues. I think that if I think back to one episode in particular, I have to be honest, like every single one of the episodes resonates every single one of them, something resonates with me, because I think that's why they end up coming on my show, is because we have some kind of similarity somewhere down the line. Um, but if I were to think of one that really stuck out to me, was the episode that I did with this woman, and her name was Val. And we talked a lot about, she's an artist, she's a singer, and we spoke a lot about her journey into singing. And her journey essentially started, she lived in Puerto Rico and then she moved to the States. And what I loved when she spoke was this like passion and this grit and this determination that I've never really like, I could like, I felt that to my core. And she was just like, her perspective was like, you know, things are meant to happen the way that they happen. And I think that, you know, her perspective and her drive to have this incredible life based in human connection, like that is her goal, is to like, it's very similar to mine, I think, but on completely different lenses and different paths. So when I think back to that conversation, she's someone who stands out to me so much, because she like, it felt like when we were talking, and I don't know if she would feel the same way, but like, it felt like when we were talking that we had this like soul bond for a second, that I could understand everything she was saying, even though I've never lived any of the experiences that she had. And at the same time, you know, she's also a podcaster, and, you know, wants to share stories and tell stories, and, you know, all of that, it just made it such an incredible conversation. And I loved it. It felt like I was talking to a friend. Actually, like pretty much every interview that I do feels like I'm talking to a friend, but this one felt, you know, different. And then we kept in touch, and like, I'll message her here and there, and like, you know, I think it's her birthday today, I'm pretty sure. And oh, same as you. And
That's funny.
yeah, I know it's a really long tangent, but I don't know. I just think that we get to choose every single day how we want to be, right? We get to choose every single day how we want things to go, whether we realize we're choosing or not. And every time I get like, you know, behind my mic, I get to choose like, how do I want this interview to go? Do I want, you know, my stress or like feelings of like,
Hello, hello. I think she cut out. Are you there, Simona? Let me see. Oh no. Let me invite you back. There you are.
does this time out after some time?
I don't think so. No, it's only been I guess it's been about 50 minutes, but
Oh my God.
this is awesome
I
though.
can't.
I'm
Anyways,
loving.
but what was I saying? I think I was saying, oh yeah, you get to choose every single day,
Yeah.
and you get to choose. And so every time I go on and do a podcast interview, every time, you know, I like wake up in the morning, if I'm talking to a client, or, you know, if I'm talking to someone in the DMs, or whatever I'm doing, you know, we get to have a choice every single day. And this is, I think, one of my favorite things that I, you know, get to help my clients realize, is that we get to have a choice every single day. And, you know, you can choose to come to something being exhausted or stressed or this or this or this, but like, how do you want to leave people feel? How do you want people how do you want to leave people a little better than you found them? That's something that I always live by every single day, because it's easy. You know, it's easy to be nice to people. It's easy to be kind. It's easy to be supportive. It's easy to be a good person. But a lot of the time that takes getting out of your own head and getting into your heart, which is not something that people are easily able to do. Like, not everybody is able to do that, right? And so when you start to sort of do that and do that work, you bring this whole different perspective of like, oh, I'm realizing when I'm in my ego right now. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I realize when, you know, that doesn't feel aligned, or like, is that something I really want to say?
Yeah.
Is that really going to make me feel good? You know what I mean? And then you make choices, and you make different choices. And I think that's one of the biggest keys to like everyday little small actions that get you closer to the type of person that you want to be, to type of person you want to be, but then also on the flip side of that, the actual person that you are at your core.
Yeah, coming back home to yourself and growing into the person
Yeah.
that you ultimately want to be while still being at your core. I love that though. I just love that whole philosophy of you get to choose, because it's so true. It's like, wait, I heard this thing recently. I quote it, so excuse me if I botch it, but basically, it's like it's not the cards you're dealt are not your fault, but it's your responsibility to choose what to do with them. And that's honestly something I'm trying to live
I
by
love that.
better and better. But and especially just showing that in your podcast too, with who you interview and what you choose them. And all of
Thanks.
your
Thank
mindset tips
you.
today,
Oh my gosh.
all of the marketing things too. That was great. I think especially from an energetic level, that's something I enjoy talking about the tactics, but I really think, especially as people who run personal brands for our business, it's so important to talk about not just the tactics, but also the energy behind showing up and choosing things that actually
Mm-hmm.
bring us joy in our marketing, because that's ultimately what gets us results, not forcing things. So,
Oh my gosh. True. Your brand is you. You can do it in the world, but if it doesn't align with you, it's never going to align with your business, because your business is you. Even when it grows, even when you have 50 employees, your business is still an extension of you. It's just, how do you share that vision with everybody else, you know?
exactly. Such a
So
good
that's why
point.
having such a strong belief in yourself is so important, and having such a deep connection with yourself is important, because should your business grow to having like 50 or 60 employees, or even 5, you know, being able to share that common value and those common goals with people and having them understand is so much easier when it's something you actually live by every day, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
That's such a good
Yeah.
point to leave us with there. Live by what you ultimately want to embody, or ultimately want to share with the world, I should say. I'm just taking in
Exactly.
everything that you shared, but awesome. I think I have one last question for you, and then I think we'll have to wrap it up just because it's getting late, and I'm sure it's late for you
For
too.
sure.
So, um, I want to ask for someone who is trying to transform their mindset, or even if they feel like they're pretty good right now, but could be improving a little bit. What's one tip that you swear by that you would recommend to everybody for instantly stepping into a better mindset, whether it be like a morning routine thing or something that you can do to instantly switch if you're just like sitting at your desk and all of a sudden feeling really mopey? I would love to hear like some of your best ones. What's one that you
Okay.
really swear by?
It's really hard to pick just one. I think one that I is, okay, you know me. I am a pretty positive person, but sometimes positive people are unhappy too. I think that one that I would swear by for sure would be whatever the first thing. There's so many of them, but the first one that comes to mind, and like I feel like honestly this could change all. I feel like it could change like depending on the type of conversation we're having, but um, I would say, is it true? Is the thought that you're having really true? You know, let's say you're at work and someone, you know, you're sitting at your desk and someone says something to you and you're like, oh my God, that person is so mad at me. Okay, but is it really true? Are they so mad at me? What could actually be happening? Like I have like a few steps of things that I do. This is one of them in that process, but essentially like I take the thought and the goal is to like disprove it to yourself, right? Like you're proving it not to be act, the actual, you're proving it so that is it actually true? Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, those words are so hard for me to say. So that would be like my number one tip would be like, is this really true right now? Is the situation really the way that it actually is? Or am I perceiving it in a different way? I think that's something that I see a lot around me too, very often. Another one that I like swear by is shifting your energy to emitting the frequency that you want people to be feeling from you. So not to say that like if you're feeling, shitty or whatever, like to discount that you're feeling that. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you can have a bad day and not bring everybody else down around you. You know what I mean? You can have a bad day and say, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, I'm feeling a little off today, but like, I'm still here to support you and send you so much love. You're sending that vibration out for people to still receive that love, even though your caliber isn't 100%, if that makes any sense. It's unrealistic to expect people to be happy and have no issues ever, ever, ever. So yeah, I think those two for sure would be huge ones. But more so like the first one would be like, is this really a true story? Is this something that I'm making up in my head? Mm-hmm. And then from that place, you can decide. You get to decide, okay, how do I want to continue on with this thought? How do I want to continue on in this day? Do I really want to be emitting that frequency of like, oh my God, everybody hates me? Or, do I really want to be doing all of those different things? Like, do I want to make myself feel like that? Because again, everything comes back to a choice. The first choice that you're making though is it actually true? So you're actively choosing yourself to stop the thought in where it is and choosing again. I read this thing by Gabby Bernstein years ago, and it's always stuck with me. Like out of all the things that she's written, this is the one that sticks with me the most. Like, I forgive this thought and I choose again. Mm-hmm. And so thinking about that, it's like, okay, was that really true? No, I'm going to choose again. And it can come up like 8 times in the day, but every time you're like, no, we're going to choose gratitude. We're going to choose love. We're going to choose, appreciation. I'm going to choose something different, like something that makes me feel good, whatever that thing is for you.
That's so good. I love that. Yeah. And
thanks.
That first tip is actually something I'm trying to do as well. Because the way I actually ask it to myself is I say, can I know without a shadow of doubt that this is the truth? So it's like,
I love that.
Is this 100% true? Because it's like, yeah, maybe in some alternate realities it's true, but in my reality right now, can I know without a shadow of a doubt that it's true that, for example, like let's use what you said, that so-and-so is mad at me, right? And most of the time it's no. Even when they clearly express anger or something like that towards you, it's like, exactly. Okay, are they actually angry or are they hurt? Anger is actually hurt, but that's exactly. a whole nother road to get down.
That's exactly it. Totally. And, I guess to like sort of close that thought is like people literally, I know there's like quotes about this everywhere. Like, people are fighting a battle that you know nothing about. And sometimes you read those quotes and you're like, yeah, whatever. Like it is what it is. But if you really stop to think, you have no idea what's going on in somebody else's life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You don't know why somebody's reacting to you the way that they are.
Exactly.
And so I think that's been like another big thing too. And I guess something I'd love to leave people with is like, are you certain that this is true? But then also like, what could that person be experiencing that they might not be telling you? And then when you think of it through that lens, there's so many things and so many reasons to not be upset with somebody else because you have no idea. And I think that always brings you back to a place of empathy and to a place of love.
Exactly. And then that's like what you said with your second piece of advice there, radiating what you want others to feel. And love is always the answer, right? So
exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you. I feel like that's a great way to finish this off. I think that's a great closing thought.
But actually, I think so too. I literally could talk to you all day and I could talk about this all day. So if you don't cut me off, we're going to be here for like 4 hours.
I know. My phone's probably going to cut me off first because I'm like just checking the battery. I'm like, crap, we're at 5%. So,
oh my God.
So yeah, we'll go ahead and end it here, but I think we're definitely going to have to do another one of these in the future. And
I would love to.
I might repost this one on Instagram because I really enjoyed this and I want more people to see it. So I'm probably going to take this one out of the group and additionally post it on Instagram. I'll keep you updated on that, but
oh my God, please do. Yeah. Tag me so I can share it. Absolutely. And I can make sure that people are coming into this community as well.
Yeah.
I know it's a beautiful community that you're building, so I'm really grateful to be a part of it, especially on its first day.
Yes, thank you. I'm so happy and honored to have you here too. It's definitely special. So anyways, for our Facebook viewers, replay viewers, whoever else is not viewing right now, but wants to learn more about you and where they can find you, shout yourself out. Where can people find you? I know Instagram, but
for sure.
Also your podcast, all the things. Share it.
For sure. So my Instagram is @Simona.Nicole. My podcast Instagram is at Happiness Happens Podcast on Instagram. And you can go on my YouTube channel. I post some videos on there and stuff too. I'm still beefing it up a little bit, won't lie, but there's a lot of really great stuff on there, and I put all my video interviews on there. And you can find that through my Instagram. Honestly, my Instagram has all of the links. So at Simona.Nicole. And if you have any specific questions, you can just send me an email if we still do that, hello@SimonaNicole.com, or just tag me in the comments here. And I'm so happy to respond to any questions that anybody has about any of the stuff we've spoken about today.
Yes, that sounds amazing. And definitely people still use email. So I need to start
right?
using
my
my email list a little bit more. But yeah, thank you for sharing everything. You are such a beautiful soul and just so wise. And I'm so grateful that we've connected this past year, and we're definitely gonna do another one of these. Don't know how soon or when, but we'll keep in the loop. Anyways, I'll leave it there. And yeah, I think this has been great. So thank you so much for sharing your energy with us today, Simona. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, KAITY, for having me on. And thanks so much, everyone who's watching the replay. Yeah, this was super, super fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Have a wonderful evening, right? Yeah, evening.
You too. Yeah, it's 9:30.
Very late where you are. All right.
Enjoy your birthday.
Thank you. I will. All right. Have a good one.
Thanks so much for being here today. I hope these words have brought you inspiration, insight, and a bit more happiness. Please leave a comment or a review if this episode resonates with you. I would be so grateful. Until next time, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.